Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to begin the funeral services of Dr. Andrea J. Stein. We are humbled and honored to have the United States Navy perform military honors for her. So please focus your attention on the people that are here. Also, please take a moment to be sure that your cell phones have been turned off. We welcome those of you who are online as well.
this time, we invite all who have ever served in the armed forces to join us for a final parting salute. And salute. Ready. Two. Left face. Pose.
We want to thank the Honor Guard from the United States Navy for that moving ceremony. Rabbi Burton Wax, Andrea's uncle, will be officiating via live stream from Florida.
I'd ask you to all join me in the 23rd Psalm, which is found on the funeral service brochure that you received when you entered the chapel. So together, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In honor of Andrea J. Stein, Dr. Andrea J. Stein, Arona Simcha, Bat Mordechai V'Chanianta, we read the 15th Psalm. Mizmor LeDavid Adonai mi yagur b'yahalecha mi yishkon behar kodshecha. Holech tamid efoel tzedek v'dover emet bilvavo. Lo ragal al lishono lo asal rayehu ra'ave cherpa lo inasa al krovo. Nivze b'einav nimas vet yirei Adonai yechabed. Nishba leharav lo yamir haspol adhan v'neshech v'shochad al naki lo lakak. Usei ele lo yimot liolam. Song of David, who may sojourn in your tent, who may dwell in your holy mountain. One who walks in purity, does what is righteous, and speaks the truth from the heart. Who has no slander on the tongue, nor has done harm to a fellow, nor cast disgrace toward a neighbor. In whose eyes a contemptible person is repulsive, but who honors those who are in awe of the Lord. Who swears truthfully even to personal hurt, and never retracts. He who does not lend money on interest, nor takes a bribe against the innocent. One who does these things shall not falter. In honor of Andrea, we also read a selection from the closing sentences, the closing verses of the Proverbs of Solomon. Oz v'hadar levu Shabbat yischak liyom acharon. Strength and splendor are her raiment. She cheerfully awaits the last day. Piha patcha b'chochma v'torat chesed al lishona. Her mouth is opened with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. Sophia lechot beitav lechmatzlut lo tochel. She oversees the ways of her household and partakes not of the bread of idleness. Kamu v'anyel v'yashua ba'ala v'halala. Her family arise and praise her, and they laud her. Many daughters have accomplished well, but you surpass them all. Grace is false and beauty is vain, and woman in awe of God, she should be praised. Give her of the fruits of her hand, and let her deeds praise her in the gates. Gathered this morning to celebrate the life of Dr. Andrea J. Stein, beloved daughter of Harriet and the late Martin of blessed memory Stein, sister of Beth Kurlander, aunt of Jacob, Eli, and Will Kurlander, niece of myself, Burton, and Maxima Wax, and Sheila and Jack Stein. Many cousins from the Stein, Schwartz, and Wax families, and devoted friends. From the 60 years that I have been on the pulpit and participated in life cycle events, I can tell you from personal experience that the loss of a child, and we are all children to our parents, no matter how old we are, is the most difficult to bear. We parent them, we nurture them, we watch over them as they mature and go out into the world. At some point, the roles are supposed to reverse. They begin to care for us when our time comes. The cycle restarts itself, and so on ad infinitum. That is what is supposed to be in the world, but that is not always the way that things go. What is especially difficult over and above the pain and agony of the suffering child is the anguish of the parent having to watch this tragedy and eventual loss. Ours is not the reason why, goes the familiar quotation. Ours in these circumstances can only provide comfort and respite to our loved one in his or her time of suffering. We cannot fathom why normality becomes warped and goes off of the plan. We can speculate, but still no one has come back from the other side to explain to us what is awry. In Jewish tradition, we say that the purpose of a funeral is hachai yitena libo, for the living, the survivors, to take it to heart and to learn from the accomplishments and good works of the beloved deceased in order to improve their own lives. Let us take a look at Andy's life for the lessons that we can bring into our own lives. Andy, a professional optometrist, served in the U.S. Navy Medical Corps in that capacity. She was stationed in Naples, Italy during Desert Storm. The men could not wear goggles under their helmets, and Andy was involved in a project where goggles were designed and made to fit into the helmet itself. During that time in the Navy, she earned 2 bronze stars. In her modesty, she never revealed this fact, not even to her parents. Following her discharge, she went to work for Kaiser Permanente in Virginia. Subsequently, she returned to Chicago and opened her own optometrical practice in the Ravenswood community. A graduate of Drake University and the Illinois College of Optometry, Andy was a member of the Illinois Optometric Association. She also served on the board of directors of the Ravenswood Lincoln Square and Uptown Chamber of Commerce. Andy was also involved with other charitable activities. She used to give up many of her Thanksgiving holidays to volunteer at Ezra, the Uptown soup kitchen of the Jewish Federation of Metropolitan Chicago. After her father, Marty, was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, the Stein family became involved with the Lustgarten Foundation, which offered support for those suffering from pancreatic cancer, as well as research. And Andy took part in the annual runs for this charity. Andy also succumbed to this sometimes seemingly and unconquerable disease, cancer. A few years ago, Andy came down with cancer, but after many treatments and procedures, it was conquered. She was pronounced clean. This lasted for about a year, maybe even a bit more. She was back to her work full time, and her life was looking up. She had her regular checkups about every 6 months, and all was going well. 6 months after a checkup, she came back for the next one, and lo and behold, the cancer had returned with a vengeance. It had metastasized through her body. Treatments and procedures were tried, but nothing worked this time. The saddest thing is that when these past months, weeks, days, and hours were forecast, she had to endure so much pain. I would like to share with you a thought from the files of Rabbi Doron Peretz, which I came across about 2 weeks ago. It is based on Parashat Ki Tisa, which we read on the Shabbat of February 19th. And I quote it here. So often in life, our greatest weakness is also our greatest strength. Nowhere is this clearer than in the remarkable transformation that Moses performs from the term Am Tishay Oref, stiff-necked people. 4 times the Jewish people are referred to as stiff-necked, and the first 3 times are terribly damning of the Jewish people. But the Medrash says that you may think that stiff-necked is a negative term, but it is actually positive. It is the obstinate, tenacious backbone of the Jewish people, which has enabled them to survive throughout all of Jewish history. Only a tenacious, stiff-necked people could have survived when they were told to die or convert, like during the Crusades, but retained their Jewish identity. Throughout the ages, Jews have remained Jewish with a tenacity and stuck to our guns, being the only people from antiquity which has survived. The same trait of being stiff-necked, seemingly poor, greatest weakness, can also be the same tenacity which has enabled us to survive. Permit me to share a personal story with you. Back in the 60s, when Maxime and I and all of my cousins were relatively young marrieds, we tried to rejuvenate a family cousins club, and we decided to start it among ourselves. And we would get together and we would talk about family things and whatever, and we talk about each other. And one common denominator came out, that every wax was stubborn. Subsequently, in the last few months, I have found out that the stubbornness was also a characteristic of my generation on our mother's side of the family. So I concluded that Andy, as did many of the wax grandchildren, either by heredity or osmosis, picked up this stubbornness or tenacity, if you will, from the rest of us. Andy stuck to her guns tenaciously through school, through her military life, and throughout her professional career. She was successful. And when it came to her last years suffering in the throes of cancer, she exhibited that same stubbornness that was her watchword during her healthy years. Andrea J. Stein has been a life lesson for all of us. May the memories that she leaves with us serve to make our lives better and stronger. May Andy's soul rest in peace, and when she comes before the Supreme Judge, may she intercede favorably for all of us who loved her and cherished her, whom she has left behind. Yehi Zichra Baruch, may her memory be for a blessing. Amen. At this time, we will hear from Beth Kurlander, Andy's sister.
I think I threw off her mojo a bit. but I think about our favorite times together. At bedtime, when we were supposed to be sleeping, we would sneak and whisper and play The Price is Right. We would quietly try to guess what the price of the refrigerator cost. We also liked to pretend to converse in a foreign language. We would babble gibberish at each other as if a meaningful conversation was going on. When our school introduced wrestling in gym class, we would practice at home. That was the only time we were fighting, but not really fighting. Sometimes we would have giggle fits at the dinner table, and pop would come out of our noses, and we would get in trouble for disrupting the dinner. I was a pretty social kid, and my sister was more of a homebody, but she was the one who sought out leadership roles. She was the editor of our high school yearbook and the manager of our gymnastics team. In college, she was involved in many activities. When she was in optometry school, she was the president of the Collegiate Society of Illinois Optometric Association. As my uncle mentioned, she had 2 Bronze Stars. Many of these accomplishments we did not know about. She was not one to toot her own horn. Andrea loved to cook, and she took classes while living in Italy. She loved her cats, she was an avid reader, and she always had a beautiful garden. She was generous and always gave. She hated loud gum chewing. We will always remember her when we stick a piece of gum in our mouth now. And she hated technology. We oftentimes, my boys and I, would FaceTime her to help her fix her TV or work the remote. One of her best qualities was with the ease with which she could make friends or talk to anyone. She has so many amazing friends. Many of you are here today, and some of you are far away. But you touched her all so deeply. My mom and I are so grateful to you, who helped her through these last years, and were there for her during the good times too. We know you took care of Andrea when we couldn't be here. You brought her comfort through your calls, your texts, the scars, the flowers, the lotions. You helped move her furniture, found someone to shave her head. When she was too tired to ride her bike to work, you drove her. You took her to appointments, brought her food, took her trash down, brought her mail up. This cancer progressed so fast. Many of you did not have the chance to say goodbye, but you were there for her when it counted. Your grace and goodness reflect the best of my sister, and we thank you.
המצא מנוחה נכונה, תחת כנפי השכינה, ומעלות קדושים וטהורים כזורקים המסירים, את נשמת אהרון השמחה, בת מרדכי וחניינתה, שהלכה לעולמה, בעבור שאנחנו מתפללים ביד אזכרה נשמתה, בגן עדן תהא מנוחתה. לכן ברחמים יסירה בשכל נפל לעולמים, וישרור בצורה חיים ונשמתה, אדוני ונחלתה, ותנוח בשלום ומשכבה, ונאמר Amen. O God, full of compassion, who dwells on high, grant proper repose on the sheltering wings of your presence in the lofty levels of the holy and pure who shine as the brightness of the firmament. Unto the soul of Andrea J. Stein, who had gone to her eternal world, and for whose memory we pray. May repose be in paradise. May the Master of compassion bring her under the cover of God's wings and bind her soul in the bond of life. May the Lord be her heritage, and may she repose on her resting place in peace. And let us respond, Amen. may be seated.
The interment service will continue at Zion Gardens in Chicago. For those of you who will be driving in the funeral procession, the procession will be forming in our parking lot. Please obtain an orange safety funeral sticker to place on the right-hand side of your windshield. Have your bright lights and hazard lights on at all times. For additional measures of safety, we will be providing a car in the back of the procession to hopefully keep other cars from entering the procession. Also, use your horn liberally as you're going through the intersections. Please do not speak or text on your cellular phone while driving to a cemetery. The Shiva will continue at the Stein residence at 4408 North Malden Street, the third floor. They'll be together today till 7 p.m., Thursday from 1 to 7, and Friday from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Memorial contributions to the Lustgarten Foundation or the American Cancer Society. For those of you who are joining us online, all that information is on our website. At this time, I invite everyone to please rise and stand in place as the pallbearers come forward and as we escort the casket of Dr. Andrea J. Stein along with the pallbearers and her family. Then you may return to your cars. Ladies and gentlemen, you may return to your cars.